horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomsluts.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history. Revolution.
And good morning. Welcome to Morning Coffee Rants with Dan. I am Dan, the Spiritual Anarchist, your host. Today is already April 16th in the year of all of us, 2026. I have a good little program planned out this morning. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling out of it lately. A lot of weird spiritual things going on. I've been really spiritualing very hard lately. So, lots of weird stuff going on. There's a lot of energy in the world right now, and certain people can feel it. And there's a lot of fear energy out there. I'm here to say, don't let the fear stop you from anything. Don't let them keep you in a state of fear. Know who you are. Take steps every day to do something, to ground yourself, and know who the hell you are. Okay. Understand that all this is being orchestrated and planned. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. Well, before I go on, I'm again on April 21st, I'm going to be interviewing with Sovereign Pete. It's going to be pre-recorded. We'll both have that interview to put up on our stations, probably on YouTube later on in the week. And the bulk of my work can be found on YouTube at Spiritual Anarchist Daniel AR 5907. And I'm also on the OneGreatWorkNetwork.com /Daniel-Arnold. Website's not up because my server's not up. Probably will get that up sometime this year and put the website up. So I wanted to throw all that out there. I got called back to reading some, science fiction fantasy books This is going to be the third time I've read them since I was 19 years old. And they're from the Forgotten Realms. And there's this trilogy called the Dark Elf Trilogy. And many people out there may have heard it, or may have heard of this hero, Dritz Durden. He was a dark elf. He is a dark elf. Fictional character. But lots of real-world crossover. I've said a lot of times that, people think that art imitates life, and I say that art reveals life in every way possible. The conspiracy analyst in me says that art is used by influencers in Hollywood and other places. They will use TV shows, things on programming, television shows, to influence you. It's dark social engineering. And, there's a light side to it, and some people don't want to do that type of influencing. So, books, comic books, anything that you take in is giving you a hint about what might be in real life, because they also use, when I say they, I just in general, art is also used to, when I say it reveals life, it's also used to tell you some secrets. Watch the movie Stargate. Listen to some of the things they say in that movie. Watch the movie They Live. Okay? Or The Matrix. See what happens in some of these movies. But this book is the series of books. The first one is Homeland. The second one's Exile. The third one in this Dark Elf trilogy is Sojourn. And it is a point to a very real human problem that a lot of people go through. It points to, in the book Homeland, the beginnings of this dark elven warrior who did not want to associate with his people. They were evil. He didn't want to, he didn't understand it. He was someplace, he just didn't belong. And luckily he had a good influence, his father, Zach Nafine, who trained him and gave him some morals. This is a warring race that everybody in the Forgotten Realms and Dungeons and Dragons, they fear dark elves. And they have fierce reputations. So, as that book closes out, and he has to fight some dark magicians, some dark wizards at the end, and he wins, and he goes out into the wilds of the Underdark. The book Exile is the book I just finished, and I got to tell you, that book is... the whole book is about reconciling your past and remembering who you are and getting over and by those lower primal urges that often come about from adrenaline. He has this mode that he goes into when threatened called the Hunter. And the Hunter is something that he has a problem with because he doesn't like to go into that mode. It's a mode that's brought on by adrenaline, and it's pure rage and survival. And nobody wants to just survive. His father, Zach Nafine, was animated as a corpse and sent after him. And at the end of the book Exile, close to the end, when Dritz has to fight his mentor, at the end, his mentor remembered who he was. Because, see, Matron Malice, the one who runs the 8th house of Menzo Baranzin, she'd used a dark spell to animate his corpse. But in order for him to have all the skills that he had, she had to give him back some of his consciousness to be able to remember his fighting ability. And Dritz counted on this and dropped his blades and said, "I'm not fighting you." And Zach Nafine remembered who he was. Even through that death, you cannot separate the mind, body, and spirit. When you put the spirit back into the body, The allegory to that is those three things cannot be separated. And when she had to give him back enough of his spirit to remember, and his mind to remember what he can do, he had remembered who he was, and he didn't fight. Instead, he gleefully jumped into a pit of acid. Okay? But the whole book was actually moving on to something you don't know. The whole book was about, he finally went into the surface. Because he was in the Underdark this whole time. It's about overcoming threats. It's about being the fool in the tarot, holding your nose and jumping. So I just thought there's a lot of allegory in that, to remember who you are, to reconcile your past, and you don't have to fall to and stay in base level consciousness. He needed help getting out of that. Now he's entering Sojourn, where he will find his tribe, his pack, his teacher, because he finds another one in the next book coming up with it, which I might talk about. But that kind of has crossover, I think, in all of our lives, and it's worth mentioning. I have probably a lot of people listening know of R.A. Salvatore's books. With the Forgotten Realms. But I just got back to reading those books, and it made me remember, sometimes you can't control what other people do, but you can control your reactions and choose not to partake in evil. You can choose to do that shadow work and to look directly into the mirror and use the mirror to look at who you are and where you are at, and to reconcile the untruths, the lies, and the shadows within yourself. And that takes a lot of courage to do. And many people don't have the courage to walk that path. And it has a couple different phases. Even if you had the best upbringing, best parents, you still have to probably overcome some issues from your childhood. Some things. Somebody has definitely made you feel bad. Get to those feelings and be with them. Observe them. Don't absorb them. Don't fall back into however you felt. Just observe them. If you're somebody who uses the mirror to practice lies, stop. Stop. Because karma is real, and karma will catch you. And there's no running from it. There's no running from yourself. So when you look in the mirror, realize that a good person is somebody who has self-reflection and introspection. And a person who isn't being real good is always pointing the finger at somebody else. See, when you do that, you surrender your own sovereignty and you surrender your own authority. And this is what our whole entire civilization wants us to do. The governments of the world want us to surrender our sovereignty. They want us to surrender our authority. They create problems, and then they want to give you the solutions after they create chaos, and you'll beg for whatever calmness that they'll provide. The world is in chaos. Isn't chaos the definition of what people think anarchy is? This world has not fallen to anarchy. This world has fallen to government. To immoral governments of the world who are working in tandem with one another to bring about humanity's destruction, and humanity needs to assemble and stand up and say no. We have to educate ourselves and get out of our phones, out of our slabs. They want to keep us distracted. The apocalypse means the raising of the veil, the unocculting of knowledge. The internet, the sum total of all man's knowledge could be found on the internet. Yet what is it used for? We're in our phones in TikTok, on chasing dopamine hits, either through corn with a P. 60% of the internet's made up of that. Or getting those likes on Facebook, or talking a bunch of smack on Twitter X that you would never say in real life to somebody. We are the most self-absorbed, egotistical, ego-run amok, evil time of this planet that's ever existed on this planet, ever. And we've got all this powerful knowledge at our fingertips where we can research. And we're using it for the dopamine hit of some likes, some hearted comments, a quick minute to 2 minute video, because nobody has the attention span anymore to actually really look at these things and to really research what's happening. They reframe things. They reframe the narrative. And once they reframe the narrative, they're able to control us. And they do that through language. I'm going to be getting into language today. So when Drizzt enters this Drizzt, there's all these different names. People don't know really quite how to pronounce his name. Falls into the hunter. That is the equivalent of, like I said before, going into that primal state. And if it is brought on through an adrenaline dump, I've talked in depth about adrenaline, but I'll continue to do so. If it's brought on by adrenaline, it's sometimes maybe harder to calm yourself down and get out of that state. Understand this. In life, you're never going to rise to the occasion. You're going to fall to the level of your training. You're never going to rise to the level of truth. You're going to fall to the level of your spirituality. And I'm not saying religion. I'm saying actual spirituality. And not the New Age stuff. Okay, the New Age stuff they want you to be solipsistic. They don't want you to judge anything. I think there is some judgment that needs to go on now. We need to have some real discernment. Not debates, not sit back and watch the freak show and the clown show on the news every day. Operation Mockingbird. And we need to really do some real research. And what I'm going to say is that hunter mode, which is letting out that inner cycle and staying calm in the storm, staying calm while things are going crazy, that is your ability to scan and breathe and stay focused and living completely in that moment, whatever it is. I had a problem last year on the 12th of March where that day was a very hectic day for me. And I have all kinds of funny stories from that day because I lived wholly and completely in the moment. And that's how you center yourself. Okay? So, moving on, I've talked about politics a little bit. Remember, when you consciously enter that hunter mode, that's talked about in R.A. Salvatore's books with the Dark Elf trilogy, it's easy to consciously come out of it. This is controlling your, base, primal lower lizard brain self, the 4Fs. This is going into it consciously, coming out of it consciously very easily. This is total control. Because life's about balance. So I brought up politics a little bit. And I'm going to get into something today. And I'm going to ask anyone listening in this audience to not outright accept or reject anything I'm going to say. So if I was to say a comment, if I was to say, I'm never political, I'm not mind controlled. Politics is a symptom of a profoundly sick society that does not follow the Creator's natural laws of the universe. In short, I am never political. I think for myself. I use the trivium method for truth discovery and 100% understand that only lunatics get into politics and all ticks are parasites. All right? Yes, that's how I really feel sometimes. But I want you to think about this for a second. When I say I'm not political, I am, by saying that, becoming political. And when I say that I am not mind controlled, and that politics is a symptom of a sick society, not an adherence to natural laws, anyone who gets into politics is automatically going to be offended, right? So if any of you felt that offendedness, I beseech thee, continue to listen. Okay? Because that's not what my intention is. What I want to do is I want to be speaking from a place outside of the political frame, though. And I want to reconcile the contradiction right off the rip. If you have the ears to hear, this will land with clarity instead of noise. Nothing I'm going to say today is political. It's anthropological. It's cultural. It's moral. It's rooted in natural law. And natural law is the exact opposite of politics. See, politics is nothing but lies. So starting with the statement, I am not political, is a paradox, because in saying that, I become indeed political. And from that point, people will begin to listen for anything that sounds like it is in disagreement with their adopted political views, while hoping for some kind of validation, but waiting for their chance, especially in today's day and age, to be offended. Or they tune it out altogether, and they're lumping these kind of politics in with the politics that they've always had in the last 30, 40 years. Trust me, folks, this is way different. So I have to reconcile this contradiction as quickly as I can to the listeners. Saying I'm not political is a political signal to a listener's nervous system if they indeed are a voter. Even if I don't intend it, it will trigger your internal filters. It'll make you listen defensively instead of openly. You're going to start scanning for agreement, disagreement, and validation and offense. It is a linguistic trap. So I want to avoid this reflex, and I probably already have gotten it. But I'm speaking from the human layer, not from a political layer. They make certain words automatically have some type of political value to them, and politics is not morality. Politics is the obfuscation of morality. It's to confuse the masses. It's to get you fighting one another instead of having some type of unity. Remember, what they want to do in this world can't be done if the United States is united. So they've done an expert job on dividing us, and our lower lizard brain, ego run amok. They know exactly what to do. And this isn't about sides. This is about clarity. So I want to step outside of the political frame entirely to go back in time. To speak the truth a little bit, okay, of the Levant. Remember, I'm not religious or political. So I'm going to talk about some things I know about Palestine. One, Palestinians are not Arab. Okay. Palestine followers of Islam and Christians live side by side and do not always even know what religion their neighbor is because they have their own rich culture, which is transcending religion. You'll have in their culture, they'll have a wedding going on. I'll get into that. You might have members of Islam and Christians in the same wedding, dancing the same traditions, doing the same things of different religious, and they don't even know each other's religion because they have a single culture that's separate. They're not Arabs. Okay? I'm naming something that historians and anthropologists and people from the land itself have been saying for generations. But it gets flattened by modern political labels. So here's a factual, non-political truth that aligns with what I just said. Arab is a linguistic and cultural category, not an ethnic one. Modern Palestinians speak Arabic. But that does mean they are ethnically Arab in the sense of being descended from the Arabian Peninsula tribes. Arabic spread across the region after the 600s CE the same way Latin spread across Europe, English spread across North America, and French spread across West Africa. Okay, language does not equal ethnicity, ancestry, or identity. Okay, this is the point I've made before about Semitic, the term Semitic being referred to languages which didn't come to that late early 1900s that was invented. Okay, Palestinians are a Levantine people, Levantine people with deep, continuous roots in that region. Genetic, anthropological, and historical evidence shows that the people living in Palestine today descend from the same population that lived there in the Canaanite times, the Philistine times, the Phoenician times, the Israelite, Judaic times, Roman times, and Byzantine times. Byzantine Empire, Byzantine Greeks. This is one of the most continuous populations on Earth. So when people say Palestinians are Arabs, they're using a linguistic shorthand, not an ethnic description. The deeper truth is religion does not define Palestinian identity. In Palestine, again, Muslims and Christians share the same culture, the same food, the same weddings, the same humor, the same neighborhood, and the same family names. Many families have one sibling who's Christian, one who's Muslim, and one sibling maybe is secular, and they're one family. Nobody treats them as different peoples. This is because it is rooted in the land itself. The culture is Levantine. The Levantine. That's it, Levantine. Not Arabian. Okay. Palestinian culture includes Canaanite agricultural traditions, Philistine coastal traditions, Phoenician maritime traditions, Aramaic linguistic layers, Byzantine Christian heritage, Islamic artistic and architectural influence. There's a lot of beautiful culture over there. We've got a lot of beautiful culture here. There's beautiful cultures all over the world, and our differences are beautiful. And sharing them with one another is what we're here to do. It's a fusion of 5,000 plus years of Levantine civilization, not a transplant from Arabia. This is why Palestinians dance the same dabak as the Lebanese and Syrians, share cuisine with the entire Eastern Mediterranean, which I really love the food, have surnames tied to the ancient towns and clans, preserve agricultural practices older than Rome. This is the Levantine continuity. I keep going back and forth on how I pronounce that. I apologize. A good book to read or listen to. It's a 16-hour listen if you get the audio book. It's called Palestine by Nur Masalaha. It's a 5,000-year history of Palestine. Egypt referred to, well, I'll get to a little of that, but it's been referred to by other names. Palisa from or Palicide. Egyptians called it Palicide. The Greeks called it Philistia. Latin called it Palestina. But there's a rich history to learn. Listen to that book. You start reading. Okay, I'm not making anything political here. I'm just stating anthropological facts. So it's one of the cultures that they don't even think of themselves as Christians and Muslims. They don't think of themselves as a religious group. They're Palestinians. Okay, so again, this is speaking from a place outside the political frame, and that's exactly why I'm saying saying things that will land with more clarity instead of noise. Nothing I have said is political. It's anthropological, it's cultural, it's moral, and it's rooted in cosmic law, which is the opposite of politics. Politics is not the lens, it's a distortion. Politics is a symptom of a society that has drifted away from natural law, sovereignty, and sanity. Politics divides what is naturally united, manipulates what is naturally obvious, and obscures what is naturally true or moral. That's how they get order followers to do all the immoral things that they do in the name of some type of safety, freedom, justice, because they obfuscate what is moral. And, I would say to any police officer out there or military person out there, it's your duty to defy and disregard immoral orders. Those are in your general orders. Those are in your SOPs, your standard operational procedures. Don't be a human doing. Be a human being. initiating harm to others because it's an order for some immoral politician doesn't let you off the karmic hook. I've watched, during my time working for the government in a certain medical facility, I've seen veterans who committed suicide. War's not good, people. Something's driving this that's not human. So, for a mind that thinks for itself, a mind that uses the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, you're going to be more immune to that distortion. You're not being political. You're going to be able to describe things without attachment to it. I have certain hypotheses that I've let out on this radio show. I am not egoically or emotionally attached to any theory I have. Someone can prove me wrong, give me any type of evidence you want, prove me wrong, I'll go for it. But I also am a master lie detector. You're not going to manipulate me. Again, this isn't left or right. There's murder happening all over the world, and there's going to be chaos everywhere. They want it this way. We have to ask, why do we keep circling back to this? So Palestinians as a people are not reducible to some political label. This is the part that I'm trying to say with precision, that they're not Arab, and I'm not denying that they speak Arabic. I'm saying Palestinians are Levantine, Canaanite, Philistine, Phoenician, Judean, Aramaic, Mediterranean, and they're indigenous to that land. Arabic is a language, not the origin of their blood or culture. Religion does not divide them. It never has. That division's coming from someplace else. And this is something that people outside that region have a problem understanding because they just listen to what's on the news. As soon as you hear anyone listening to me understand something, if I started telling you about how I believe in the right of self-defense, and I believe in your Second Amendment, and I believe in so many different things that right-wing people believe in, you would think that I was a Republican, or like I like to say, Republicrat. Right now, some people you say the word Palestinian and they think you're a Demopublican. This is bullshit. I'm neither. So, in Palestine, Christians, like I said, Christians, followers of Islam, Muslims, they share the same food, the same weddings, the same humor. I've said all this. Same villages they come from. Palestinian culture carries ancient agricultural knowledge, Canaanite harvest festivals, Philistine coastal traditions, Phoenician maritime echoes. They were the sea peoples. I believe they were the children, the descendants of lost Atlantis, 12,000 BCE, that traveled to that area, they said, from the areas of Cyprus and from, really it's right outside the Portugal, African Pillars of Hercules leading into the Atlantic. Did I say Atlantis? Why is the ocean named the Atlantic Ocean? They have Byzantine Christian heritage, which has Greek roots, Islamic artistic influence, Mediterranean hospitality, deep oral storytelling traditions, beautiful embroidery patterns that map villages like a living archive. It is a culture of poetry, music, olive harvests, bread, ovens, hospitality, family honor, land stewardship, mythic memory. The most occulted information in the world gets passed down word of mouth. It isn't written in books. It is not a political identity. Okay. This isn't politics. Again, it's anthropology. Why won't they let anyone take in the modern day Israelis? Why aren't any of them allowed to take blood tests for their heritage? Anytime information is being held back, you got to ask yourself why. Okay, this is why the term Semitic was coined, to allow and include people who spoke Arabic, Hebrew, and Aramaic, as opposed to the actual ethnicity bloodlines of that area. I could learn to speak Mexican and it will not magically change me into a Mexican. So let's get to this. Semitic was invented, the term, as a linguistic umbrella, not an ethnic one. The term Semitic was created in the 18th and 19th centuries by European scholars, go figure, who wanted a single category to group Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, Akkadian, Phoenician, and I may not even be pronouncing this right, but Ugaritic. Yeah, Ugaritic. They were a grouping of languages, not bloodlines. So language does not equal ethnicity, ancestry, or identity. Now, the term Semitic has been later misused to imply a racial or ethnic category. This is where the lies are happening. Once the linguistic category existed, people began to reframe it as if it were a biological identity, which it never has been. It allowed for unrelated groups to be lumped together, political narratives to be built on linguistic categories. They want to control the narrative. Ancient identities to be rewritten, modern identities to be weaponized. This is how a lot of different people get placed under under an umbrella they shouldn't be. I think there's a lot of cousin bloods over in that area. The real ancestral groups of that region are Canaanites, Phoenicians, Philistines, Judeans. I name off all these names, and you know what? There's 12 of them. It's interesting. Hellenistic settlers, Roman era Levantines. The 12 tribes of Israel, maybe? I don't know. So these are the actual ethnic groups that are tied to that area. They weren't Eastern Bloc European, they weren't German, they weren't from London, England, or any place in Europe. You know, in 1918, there was a 68 word letter written to by one of the Rothschilds to the British monarchy wanting to create and this was after a war, after the Palestinians helped London, Europe, whatever, fight off the Syrians, and they were, going to be promised their own land by other people from other lands. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, man. Throughout human history, this is all humanity has done. We have this capacity for great violence, but we also have this capacity for great love. And that is a paradox that needs to be reconciled. But they wanted to allow for settlers to have a place in the promised land. Separation of church and state, right? Yeah, okay, whatever. And then 15, 16 years later, we started going through the same stuff in the world that we're going through now. We're going to be seeing another Great Depression. And then it leads into wars. And during World War II, 18 million Hebrew Jews, original Judaic Jewish people from that area were murdered. Many of them fled to Iran and other places, but Iran has the second largest number of original Hebrew Jews in the world. And it made room, 19 million gone. It made room for settlers from Europe. So there's something about the blood of the real Jews. I'm not saying Israelis, because anybody from the world I can go become an Israeli. All I got to do is swear allegiance to the religion of Judaism, and I'm not religious. I think it's all just slavery. That's all it is. It's a control mechanism. And I can go become an Israeli. According to what they say today, if I learn to speak a certain language, I'm definitely from that area. Doesn't make sense. And they throw the contradictions at you to keep you wrapped up in those contradictions, and you'll buy into it because you don't even know who the fuck you are. If you look in the mirror and know who you are, you won't let this happen. Okay? Calling a Palestinian Arab in the ethnic sense is like calling Irish people Latin because they speak English, or Nigerians French because they speak French, or Brazilians Roman because they speak Portuguese. It collapses an ethnic heritage and identity into a language. We are all more alike in this world than we are different. Okay? Human beings are special. And we've gotten to this point where we have some choices to make as a one world filled with human beings. Humanity needs to indeed assemble. Okay, so continuing here, I got some notes. Again, I don't want to say that I am not mind controlled. I don't vote. I voted once in my life. It was a weird time in my life. Okay? And to just tell a quick little story, how television programming and the woman I was with got me to vote in a manner in which I would have never voted if I was going to vote that year. I voted for John Kerry in 2004, and that's the only time I've ever voted in my life. And at the time, I was a full-time cop, plus a part-time cop, plus a dad, and I had all these right-wing views. But I knew the war was bullshit, and I didn't want the war anymore. I had a stepson I was raising who I didn't want to get drafted. I trained him with all the love and care I possibly could, so in case he did get drafted, I wouldn't have to be hugging his mother at his funeral. I hugged a woman once after we both watched her son die in the ER. I have my own trauma. I've worked through it. I don't want to ever feel that energy again. I wanted that war to be over. And thinking from the statist mindset that I had at the time, having been in the United States Marine Corps, which is the real military, I looked at somebody like Bush Jr., his Texas Air National Guard, and then I look at John Kerry, and this is how the commercials pulled me in. He was in the jungles of Vietnam, right? Looking like whatever. So who did I think was more legit? The bottom line is neither one of them are more legit. They both belong to Skull and Bones. They both had the same answer to the question about that fraternity. They said, we don't talk about that. When a politician says that, you need to talk about it a lot. A lot. I never voted again, and I never will. As has been shown by both sides, they always got these contentions. They put in office who they want to put in office anyway. And the whole world worked together 6 years ago in tandem to lock us down and put diapers on our faces. They also, in the last 4 years, made a big show of some things. Big show of all these people coming over the border. Oh, man. Now it's time to get our pound of flesh back, and we have an excuse to militarize our police and put all these military people in the different cities. And, if it wouldn't have been for the left doing this, so y'all are still arguing left and right instead of saying our government is fucked up and they don't like us. When I speak, I'll have some people thinking, is he left wing or right wing? I'm like, no, fuck him. I'm neither wing. I'm a human being who wants to just live my normal life with other human beings who do not want to initiate harm to people. But humanity is going to have to assemble and stand up to this stuff, and I think it's going to happen. I think things are coming down the pike that can't be stopped, but I think more and more things are being exposed. It's heartening to see so many military people that have turned into conscientious objectors because they don't want to fight any moral war. They're supposed to be, the way our world is unfortunately set up, we need militaries to protect us from invading countries, right? It's been like that since thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years ago already. It seems to be an ongoing thing. If we lived in a higher consciousness state, in adherence to objective morality and natural law, it would be at least a baseline level of morality that can help us lead to a higher consciousness and a one world civilization in which we are all at, relative peace. Bad people would still exist here and there. Some people would still be born psychos. Okay? Primary psychopathy. Sometimes people are just born like that. Not saying there won't be bad things that happen, but there's extra bad things happening now because there's nothing like a group of people to do extra bad. You have to start asking questions why, and you have to start asking that same question or making that same statement that a 5-year-old would make, you're not the boss of me. If we're not doing anything that breaks natural law, if we're not doing anything that harms another, if we're not doing anything that creates a victim to somebody, that diminishes them in some way, if we're not lying about somebody, then we should be allowed to live our lives. Most normal people are just living day to day and want to live their lives. The normal people in these countries, the regular citizens of these countries, do not want to murder one another. And the young men and women serving in their military, usually from poorer families, don't really want to be murdering each other. How about everyone come on to the good guy's side? Come on in for the win. Let the old dusty guys and gals, let the old fucks fight each other. Let's start demanding some honesty and some transparency from our so-called governments. They're rulers. They're not leaders. Leaders don't really want to be in charge of shit. Leaders are really teachers. When was the last time you were taught something by a politician outside of fear and compliance? Well, they got this thing when there's no laws in place. Well, we're seeking voluntary compliance from a position of authority wearing a gun or carrying a rifle. Yeah, you'll get voluntary compliance. Fucking retards. That's not voluntary, man. It's just not. That's going to probably be about it for my show today. I realize I'm only about a 50-minute show today. I'm ending it a little bit early. But I didn't talk as long as I wanted to talk about my D&D, Forgotten Realms, Nerding Out, Drizzt books, Homeland, Exile, Sojourn. I'm now on Sojourn, and I'm really enjoying the read. You know, get into other things besides, if you're in this volunteering to try to speak some kind of alternative truth, it's the truth, really. If you're really looking at things critically, don't get yourself caught up in it that you don't enjoy other things in life. And that's when I realized, hey, I like these books. They're helping me, and it's a nice escape. So do other things, okay, besides studying, you know, the truth of history, because that gets kind of sad sometimes. So I like to get into these books where there is somebody who has that hero's journey, even though I don't believe it should even have to exist. But that hero's journey is really about improving yourself, being a hero to yourself. So I might have to go back on one of my shows when I was like, F the hero's journey, and be like, no, not really. There's some in-between balance in that. Because I'm actually really appreciating that journey. Because that journey is not about even about self-discovery. It's about reconciling contradictions and becoming aligned. Not caring what other people think, and understanding that people are going to have agendas, and they're going to have, you know, their own attempted manipulations to get what they want, because they don't think they can get it by any direct means. And everybody wants to feel like the good guy, so you need to ask yourself, is your desire and what you want bringing harm to somebody else and trying to deflect responsibility from yourself, thereby giving up all your sovereignty, authenticity? You have to ask yourself, are you being ruled by some demon? Has something possessed you? Can you get it off you? You can. Say some prayers. Go on a nature hike. Listen to the birds. Lay down, listen to the birds. Look up at the blue sky, hopefully with white clouds and not chemtrails. Every clear blue day we have, the next day it's filled with chemtrails. But look at the beauty that's in this world. The Gnostics believe this world was created by a devil god. I believe that too. But something came in here and interjected a lot of beauty. Look around you. Pay attention to it. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today, folks. Nothing but love, light. I wish everybody safety. Until next week, man, stay safe. Peace out.